This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from Editor and Publisher Magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcast, digital, and all forms of news publishing.
And greetings once again, Mike Blinder, publisher, E&P Magazine. If you're listening to this program on a podcast platform, by all means, follow us. Watching on YouTube, there's a subscribe button below. There's a bell to the right of it. Don't ignore them. Hit them, smash them, click them, do something, and you'll get an update each and every time we upload this weekly vodcast series, E&P Reports. I'm going to take you back to my old stomping grounds, Niki Turner of the Rio Blanco Herald-Times. Niki, you're on the western slope of Colorado, correct?
That is correct. Northwest corner.
Now, I'll let you in for a secret. In 1982, I was the morning man and operations manager of KEXO Radio, Grand Junction, Colorado.
About 2 hours from us.
I know the western slope. Niki, you are the publisher of the Rio Blanco Herald-Times, and you do it with Caitlin Walker. What is the relay? Are you both co-owners? What's the deal?
We are co-owners, 50-50. Caitlin is my oldest daughter.
Oh, so this is, okay, excellent. So there's actually ink in your blood then, right? This is a family.
There is definitely, we have ink poisoning. We joke about it.
Tell me quickly, the town itself, how large is it?
About 2,500, and it's been right about that for many, many years.
Rio Blanco Herald-Times, how old is this publication?
So originally it was just the Meeker Herald, and it started in 1885, and it was merged with the Rangeley Times, that's the other community in our county, merged in 1998, I believe, and became the Rio Blanco Herald-Times.
Who did you purchase it from?
I purchased it from the previous owner, Mitch Bettis, who
Excellent.
I worked for. He's now I can't remember his official title, Arkansas Business Publishing Group.
All right, and what we're going to talk about is how you took a look at your books just about a month ago, saw that things weren't right, and put out a plea to your community for help, and you got it, right?
Yes, in spades.
This is an exciting story. We're going to take you to the western slope of Colorado and talk about, hopefully, a phoenix rising from the ashes and staying in flight, the Rio Blanco Herald-Times, on the backside of this message.
This episode of E&P Reports is exclusively sponsored by Blocks Digital, formerly Town News. Even though the name has changed, their commitment to the media industry is as strong as ever. Blocks Digital is now even better positioned to deliver integrated solutions like content management, audience development, advertising revenue, video management, and more. Join the over 2,000 news publishers worldwide that power their ongoing digital transformation with Blocks Digital, serving over 141 million monthly users who view over 6.5 billion pages of content each year. You can trust Blocks Digital to empower you, to connect you at scale with the community you need to reach. Blocks Digital, formerly Town News, now reimagined to help meet the news publishing challenges of tomorrow and beyond. Learn more at blocksdigital.com.
Okay, Niki, so we're now in September. Now, I'm reading these notes from an email that I got, telling your story. It says that in September of 2023, you were looking at your bottom line after the publication, and you realized that you were at a loss. This was like your worst month ever in advertising or something. Tell us what happened.
It was actually October.
October.
It was second week of October. September was our worst month for display advertising. Our weekly run sheet has been steadily declining with variable advertising. Our stable, our contract people are consistent, but just the variable display advertising that comes in, that brings in the majority of our revenue, has just been on the decline. And by October, we sat down, did the books, and realized we had enough money left to publish 2 more editions, cover 2 more payrolls, and then we were going to be out of cash.
This is a weekly print publication and 24/7 on the web?
Yes.
completely paywall, audience driven online, or do you give the content away, if I may ask?
It is completely paywalled now. That is a shift that we made in the last couple of weeks. We switched to a different, we finally found a content management system that we could afford. Before that, we just had a cobbled together mix of WordPress plugins and things, and our paywall was not as strong as it needed to be. And then we were also putting a lot of our content out on social media in an attempt, obviously, to garner subscribers and readers and draw traffic to our website. So we've locked that down a little bit as well.
Drop in advertising. Any particular reason, or just is the community going through some form of economic downturn, more competition, or just a change in attitude? What is your best guess?
There's no competition really. Not in Meeker. I think what has happened is, one, we have not had a dedicated sales rep going around physically in person knocking on doors for quite some time. And two, we have one of the best broadband infrastructures in the country, in our little county. And so everybody is online all the time. And I think a lot of advertisers, I mean, what we see is a lot of advertisers go, oh, I can just post my sale or my event on Facebook, and surely everyone will see it, and it's free. And as a business owner myself, I get that, because, free always seems nice, but I think that has taken some of it's easy, it's simple, and they can do it themselves. They don't have to make any connections. So I think that's where a lot of it has gone. And then not having a dedicated salesperson
To re-educate.
Out. Yes. And in a town this size, we've joked about it. We've gone through several salespeople over the last few years, and finding a really good salesperson in a community this size is like finding a purple polka dotted unicorn.
The biggest problem I have sometimes in these programs is getting the right pull quote. Thank you for supplying it. I'll sleep well tonight. All right, so let's get into the meat of this thing. You guys are looking at the books. The last thing you want to do is shut down.
Right.
I've looked at your content. You guys are super serving this community. You obviously are a fixture. You're over 100 and some odd years old. You're providing the Madisonian mission of being that final check on power. I bet there's times where the mayor hates you and the school board or what have you, because you're telling the truth, and you're also covering the church suppers, right? You're just part of that town. You have a location downtown, a place people
have a location that actually, the location that we are currently in is the same location that this newspaper has occupied for almost 138 years.
Amazing.
We're able to go back and buy the building in 2021.
So here you are, the fixture of the area, and you tell your audience in an email. Was it an email, a letter in the? What did
my daughter put out? We put out a weekly newsletter via email, and so the weekly newsletter that week was a cry for help.
It was quite a cry. Advertising is the primary income source for newspapers, 85% revenue. It's been declining for years. September was our worst month for advertising we ever had. Some would say that's a bad business move. Who wants to invest in a business that isn't sound? And you're basically telling the community that may not be around for a while longer. So people, rather than turn away from you, supported you. What happened? Give us the story.
So the way I see it, and the way we have framed this since we bought the paper, is that we see ourselves as the keepers of the flame. This is not our paper.
Right.
This paper predated us by many, many years, and we hope it to extend far past our lifetimes. So we're the stewards of this community resource. And obviously a newspaper is a business and a public service. I mean, we do provide a public service by providing information, by going to meetings so that everyone else doesn't have to go to all of the meetings. We accomplish those things. And so we put that out there. We always, as journalists, we're always talking about transparency. We're always talking about demanding that the government and special districts, that they be transparent, particularly about their finances. And yet we often are not, as a business, small business owner. So because it's not our paper, it felt like the right thing to do, to reach out to the community that we serve and say, hey, this is the situation we're in. We need help.
How much money did you raise and how long did it take?
So we're about 3 weeks in now. We put out that newsletter on Friday the 13th and October was a fun month around here. Yeah, we put in that Friday the 13th, and then so we're coming up on 1, 2. Yeah, this is the 3rd week. In less than 3 weeks, we've had local community members in a town of 2,500 bring in $37,000.
That's mind-boggling. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I have a theory, if you don't mind. My theory is that we as an industry, not you and I, because I feel the same way about E&P. I'm just stewarding a brand that's been around since 1884, right? Just kind of keep the hope alive and keep it strong and hand it off to someone else. So I get where you're coming from. But my theory is that because this industry got so fat and lazy for over a century, that we never really explained who we are to our readers. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we just took the money, the classified revenue. We had this massive penetration and we got fat and lazy. Do you agree as an industry?
I would agree. I think journalists are really bad at telling our own stories. So we're not likely to, we're focused on other people's stories. We want to get those stories out. So we don't tell our own. We don't tell our own journey, our own business story very well. And I think that's, and again, back to the discussion about, being a small business and you don't want to tell your community, hey, we're in trouble, we're struggling. But sometimes I think you have to.
How hard was it for your readership, your community, to immediately equate in their brain what I call loss aversion, fear of loss? I mean, I come from a sales background, and the entire sales process is really based on creating fear of loss. That's why they call it the solution-based or need-based sales process.
Right.
What you did was create that in the mind of your customer. You said, we're not going to be here. Now, I love your message on your support us page, because it not only says, please contribute, it says, you say it right here, if you're a business, advertise. I mean, help us, support us. Is it working? Are you picking up your advertise? Are people coming?
We have picked up, yes, I'd say in the last 2 weeks, we've picked up a couple $1,000s in additional display advertising revenue, and about at least 25 new subscribers or returning subscribers who had expired, some of them a decade ago, before we bought the paper, who have stepped back up and resubscribed.
Would you suggest this strategy? I'm assuming the message has traveled far and wide and your phone's been ringing.
So, yeah.
And a few other owners like yourself are calling you up saying, how did you do it? What should I say? Because they have the same fear. I don't want to tell my business community that I'm having trouble meeting the bills, or I'm dragging some payments. They don't want to say those words. What do you say? Let's do role playing. Help me, Niki. How did you do it? What advice would you give me?
So Caitlin and I have talked about this. Number one advice is don't wait until you only have 2 weeks left.
Yep. Start
telling that story now. That was probably the most stressful 2 weeks I've had in a very long time. Start telling your story now. Tell people how the sausage is made, so to speak. Tell them, I still explain on a regular basis the difference between an ad and an article, or what is an opinion. It's things that are in what is a public notice? How do you explain to people? People need to understand what these things are. And we're dealing with a different generation that is not necessarily accustomed to having their paper in front of them every day. We need to introduce new readers, how newspapers work. How does this industry work? What are the costs? Be open and upfront and transparent with your costs and what you do to keep this industry And this institution, in these small towns, this is an institution. We're one of the oldest running businesses in the county.
My last question is this. Rumor has it, or at least what I'm getting from the reporting we're doing, is you're thinking of switching to nonprofit. Is that correct?
We are exploring all options at this point. So what we would really like to do, we spoke with the previous owner who is a friend, and asked him, and he said, I like capitalism. I said, well, yeah, I know. We know several newspapers in our area that are nonprofits, so we kind of understand how that works. And so we're looking at that. We're looking at maybe a hybrid model. We're also looking at some way to create a fund, whether it's a foundation or a trust. We don't have all the logistics in place yet, but we're looking at some way to create like an emergency fund for the community, for this institution, where people who, let's say they're a subscriber, but they'd like to do more. Let's say this newspaper has meant a lot to their family over the years for whatever reason, and so they'd like to donate extra above and beyond their subscription. Or let's say it's an advertiser, and we have a few of these who say, well, I don't need to advertise because I'm so busy, I can't keep up with the clientele that I already have, but I'd like to support the paper. So that would give them an opportunity to contribute to a fund, so that one, if we find ourselves, or the next set of owners finds themselves in this situation again, where things are so tight, we're not going to be able to print a paper this week, we have a fund we can draw off of. And then also from that fund, we'd like to do some community good back and give back to the community, and by way of scholarships or funding, helping out different local groups, different organizations, something that we can do, help our local historical society stay afloat, just continue to keep that going so that there's something available in case something like this happens again.
The town is Meeker, Colorado. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from Rangeley, if I remember correctly. The paper itself is the Herald Times. You'll find it at theheraldtimes.com. Niki, what's your email address for anyone who's interested in reaching out?
It's editor@ht1885.com.
There you go. Editor@ht1885.com. Amazing story. Congratulations on making one of the toughest decisions, I think, of your life, right? I mean, to just be completely transparent, but look at the upside once you did it. Now you have a community that understands your value a little bit more, and maybe it's time to get
we understand our value to them, and that's helped us a lot.
With all this momentum going, may I give you a little free advice? Go out
Sure.
and try to get that salesperson right now, okay?
Yes.
Thanks, Niki, for your time.
Thank you. Anytime.